Hello guys, welcome to the Train Park. I can see that we have a big accumulation of liquidity at 63k. In today's video, we're gonna look whether there is a chance that we could see the price going first for 63k, or if the 4-hour breakdown that we're seeing right now might cause a little bit of trouble before we can get there. Guys, if you like this type of content, make sure that you are subscribed to the channel, hit the notification bell, and if you feel like supporting the channel, watch this video until the very end and do not go anywhere without leaving a comment down below. Those two things are sending a strong message to the YouTube algorithm that this content is worth watching by more people. So thanks so much for that. Yesterday, BlackRock Bitcoin ETF breaks the mark of the 20 billion barrier. Last week, we saw quite a lot of outflows that managed to close the week in positive, which actually helped closing down with a high in terms of cumulative flows into the Bitcoin ETFs. And when it comes to the CME gaps, expecting it last week to move to 63k was the best play of the week. Right after that, it left another gap from 61 to 60, and the price came back to close that gap as well. The price of CME on Friday closed at 61, so take note of that number, because if the price over the weekend goes above it, it's high likely that it's going to have to come and close that gap. And if the price goes below it, how low it goes, eventually it should come back and close it as well. No matter how long it takes, there's a 99% chance that that's what it will do. So let's cover the 4-hour, because right after we took a trade around here and the RSI shadow very closely my forecast, which I'm really proud of last week. After that, it made a global breakout out of this trend line on the 4-hour. But then it came back below it, and now it's just going sideways at this range. Hopefully it's gonna stay there and continue going higher. But my opinion on being on this side of the game or on this side of the game is that this is bearish and this is mildly bearish, because both of them are breaking down from the support trend line that is upwards sloping. And what we typically see from an area like this, if this continues going higher, is that eventually this meets up again with the trend line and then it crashes. So that's why I still don't like seeing the RSI being in this area. The very bullish area to be is to continue going higher, holding the trend line, of course. So one of the scenarios that could develop over the weekend, of course, I don't see the future, but this is on the table right now, is to see the price rallying on the RSI, meeting with this, and then eventually correcting. And maybe that could be sufficient to take that liquidity that we have right now at 62.1 and at 63.4. We can also observe that liquidity is at 63.5 when it comes to fair value gaps. The play over the weekend is pretty much deciding whether the price needs to take this liquidity from 59 all the way to 55, or if it's going to grab first the 63 and then go to the lower end. And that's purely based on the 4-hour time frame. If we now go to the 1 time frame, the two most important things that I'm looking is the trend line on the price being resistance at 64k. So that will support the thesis of going to 63, slightly higher and hitting that resistance, and then possibly after going for the 55k. When we look at the 1-day RSI, we see that this was a very impulsive move. And so far, the pullback from the top of this impulsive move is not as big. In fact, it hasn't even come down to retest the trend line that comes from the bottom. So this means that the 1-day time frame is not exhausted. The 4-hour seems a bit exhausted and it could come down a little bit lower, but maybe just enough to test the trend line. For that to develop, we need at least 3 to 5 days of price action, because this is the daily time frame. And as you can see, what's holding us now is the median coming from percentile nearest rank in my RSI, but the top of the range is at 67 on the RSI. Right now, it's tracking the top of this move on the daily RSI. Before we go into the liquidity, keep in mind the levels of 63. We'll cover that multiple times as we go through different indicators, order book, and the rest of the information. I also want to cover the open interest today because we are at the bottom of the range in this full period. And typically when we get to the bottom of this range at around $15 to $16 billion in open interest, we tend to have another rally to the upside. So far, that hasn't been wrong either in this past week. In fact, we went below to 14 billion, we got bought up, and right now we are higher than the closing price that we have at 55.6K early July. If we were to close the week in here, this will definitely open the possibility of a rally of the open interest back into the 21 billion mark. We must be looking into open interest and the closing price at the end of Sunday. Good news, because the Big Well Explorer is still in the breakdown area, meaning that deposits are starting to be slightly more than the withdrawals, and that is the recipe to come back into a ratio of 1 between deposits and withdrawals, hopefully below it to become a strong area of accumulation. When it comes to the Megaphone pattern, which is the most common pattern next to a halving event, you can see that we have completed the leg 1, 2, and 3 because we came and we touched the bottom, and we are now bouncing aggressively over almost 24% from that bottom. So if we were to close the weekly in here, this once again opens the door to the 14% additional that we need to get to the top of the Megaphone pattern, and maybe 20% move that we need to break out. We already did 24, we just need 20% more to break out from the Megaphone pattern and to complete the yellow. Then we need a retest of 6% in here, and the rest is just a matter of everyone having a fear of missing out at this area, buying, triggering the short squeeze of all the liquidation areas that are at the top. If you don't believe me, just look at Trading Different. They start from 69.7 right at the top of the Megaphone pattern, and the higher it goes, the more people get liquidated. With this sort of liquidation, typically the price bounces back. If it holds at 70K, then it can run for the rest of the liquidation levels that could easily get us into the 80K mark. If the price over the weekend was to sell off, ideally we don't close below the 56 mark because that will print a weekly close lower than this, and then we are again confirming that the structure is not due for a reversal. So far, if it does it in an angle like this, in terms of the closing price of the weekly, that is good. Double bottom, still good, not as good, but a lower low opened the door for a sell-off that could invalidate either the white and the yellow path. On the weekly, if you haven't watched it, watch my video about Ethereum BTC pair that I made last week. It's got very big insights. I'll be mentioning again these insights every now and then, but if you want to learn the full detail of my perspective on Ethereum against Bitcoin performance for the rest of the bull market, go and check that video. But as you can see on the weekly, Ethereum is breaking down against Bitcoin. And as a consequence, you can see indexes like others that is tracking the lower cap of the altcoins breaking out and coming for a retest on the weekly. TOTAL3 is also doing that. But TOTAL3 is excluding Ethereum, others as well. TOTAL2 includes Ethereum, and as you can see, the breakout, thanks to Ethereum performing so bad so far, it's coming back below the range, which is quite annoying really. I'm heavily invested on Ethereum and I wish I was on Solana by now. I only have a small bag of Solana relative to Ethereum. So I think the alts are looking quite good in terms of this breakout, others as well. And typically September and August is not necessarily the best time for Bitcoin, so the alts might not necessarily explode right now, but I'll make sure that around October I'm ready to ride the prices towards the end of the year. If you look at TOTAL3, from the bottom of the market, it built this particular channel and it has come to retest on December 2022, on June 2023, on July 2024, and very shortly after end of July 2024. So there was a breakout on the weekly on TOTAL3. TOTAL3 being in this very important support at the moment, it's saying this is a do or break, right? If we bounce from here, we can go half of the range, we can go to very high levels of RSI, even 80. An RSI of 80 in TOTAL3 means that the total market cap excluding Ethereum is 1.3 trillion. That will be an incredible altcoin season if it plays out. Of course, we are assuming, since I said do or break, that we hold this level of 44 in the RSI of TOTAL3 on the weekly. We don't want to lose it and go into the 30s and 20s because then we are risking too much to enter into a bear market. And since we are approaching the end of the week, I continue to look into what is the RSI weekly doing on Bitcoin, and so far it seems to be creating a higher low. We are approaching the trend line in here, which is resistance located at 53. Let's place the 53 level in the reverse RSI. You can see that during this week that was touched at least once. That was located at 63K. So at some point this RSI was touching this. I never saw it, but we can track it in here, and eventually that resistance pushes us back down into 60.6 where we are now. I think a close like this on the weekly will leave me satisfied in terms of having that higher low. Of course, what I would like to see is if we reaccommodate this trend line, that the RSI has a breakout and it closes at 57. That would be extremely bullish, and at that point the price will be at 67.3. If we did that, we will revert the bearish cross that we are currently about to complete this week. Pretty annoying, but it's there on the stochastic RSI. And we can see that the long-term holders continue to accumulate and the short-term holders continue to sell. This is precisely what we want to be seeing here in this megaphone pattern. People getting exhausted, the short-term holders, and just throw in the towel, while at the same time the sneaky bastards of the long-term holders start the reaccumulation towards the end of the year. It's up to you which side you want to pick. Most of the time the long-term holders get it right, not always, but the caveat here is that long-term holders have so much dry powder that even if the price collapsed here and went to 40K, they will still have enough cash to buy that dip. So make sure that if you're copying them, copy them also considering that aspect. We already saw the liquidity on trading different on the 4-hour. I'm gonna look into it into the scalping template, which is using the 5-minute time frame. We're gonna look at what is closer to the price, and I'm gonna start zooming in very slowly. Remember that I'm using the group the pulse automatically, so some red areas relative to what is being displayed in the screen are gonna start turning into yellow or green depending on how much liquidity is displayed at all times on my screen. As I zoom out, you're gonna see some levels disappearing. So if we are between 62 to 58, the largest level of liquidity is at 58.7. But if we zoom out further, then that 63 to 62.8 becomes the most relevant one. And this one that previously was in red now turns into yellow to green. Zooming out a little bit further, you might understand why that 63 liquidation could be attractive for the price to go there, even while having now a 4-hour breakdown. I can also see on the 5-minute here that we have formed a cap and handle. It's just the 5 minutes, but this could take us to 61.4. Let's see if it breaks out. On fire charts, when I look at the 6 months, I can see that we have very little cushion below the price, which is a little bit concerning. Has 30 million, 45 has 20 million, and below the price we have 20 and 17. Above the price, right at 70K, there is 67 million, which is of course a lot more, and it continues with 50 million and 42 million going into 72K. That is not necessarily bullish, I have to admit. Let's continue looking at the live order book here at Trading Lights. And the most interesting thing is that yesterday, all this selling wall that after I posted, I saw so many more people posting this image. It's evident that they were trying to suppress the price by the close of Friday. I don't know if this is manipulation to do with generating the CME gaps, but to me, It's too obvious that this was manipulation. They really didn't want the price to close anywhere above it. I haven't checked if there were options expiring. We are not at the end of the month, so I'm not really sure. All that's left is barely 500 now at 60.8. There is some bid liquidity at 59.8, and they also pulled out their bid liquidity at 55.7. And the only thing that has persisted throughout this whole move is the cash on from 47.5 to 47. That's still there. There are some levels below 40K. Interestingly, for a long time, we don't see anything so low, with the exception of when we went to 55K in the past month. And let's do a review of the signals. On Twitter, there were many trolls complaining about the signal that I gave here, but as you can see, it played out once again perfectly. I published the signal on the 6th of August and it gave almost 16% profit. I will continue to share these signals on Twitter. Make sure that you're following me. My handle is Trading Parrot, and if you stop the video right here, you can see that since we started sharing these signals, they play out one by one. If you missed my video about the Bitcoin ratios against important economic indexes, make sure that you watched them last week. They have very important insights when Bitcoin can break out to the upside. I did against the VIX, the Federal Reserve liabilities. We did it against the NDX as well. We have a breakout about to play out. And against the dollar index. All of them provide insights that you cannot find and really help complementing the price action of Bitcoin by itself. The monthly stochastic RSI is still pointing down. I'm hoping that we can get that price action going higher in here so we can revert with a bullish cross. I remind you, we are not allowed to go below 20. We never survive a bull market going below 20. It immediately turns into a bear market if we get there. So this is what we are looking for, across somewhere here and then back into the top of the range, or maybe getting this high. Hopefully by the end of August we already get a bullish cross, but since August and September are not necessarily the best months for crypto and Bitcoin, for example, if you focus on August, you can see how much red there is in the past. In the cycle, currently we are in a month equivalent to 2020. 2021 was also positive, which will be equivalent to 2025. In September, you see a sea of red in here, and past year it was 3.9. Average September is pretty much the largest drawdown that you can see in average, with a median of 5.5 as well. October, November tend to have very, very good returns, particularly during bull markets. If August ends up closing in -6, let's keep an eye on September, and hopefully those 2 months are not able to take that stochastic RSI into the 20s. So then in October and November, we should see a strong recovery to the top of the range of the stochastic RSI as well, with an associated all-time high. And last but not least, I also got a couple of trolls saying that these signals on SOPR are made up, altered, or something. There's nothing else for me to do apart from laughing. You can see on the day of the signal, you can go to my Twitter, people were mocking that it went down this amount, but you can see that it has made 13.7% in profit. On Ethereum so far it has done 16, and on Litecoin 10.7. I noticed as well that even though the label appears on the 6th of August, I ended up receiving the alert on the end of 7th of August. So technically, if I automate this, the entry was at 55K for Bitcoin, at 2.3K for Ethereum, and at 55.9 for lithium. So even better in this case. You can see the past performance when I zoom out. This video now is being uploaded in 1440p resolution, so you should be able to see it in full detail. Same it goes for the performance of the blue signals coming from leverage squeeze. Both of these signals are included in the VIP membership of the Trading Parrot. The last one, so far, it's in 16.27%. This signal tells you when there are liquidations coming from leverage to the upside or the downside. The blue and the yellow is the high quality one. The red is just to keep you aware, together with the green one. Guys, I'm hosting a position airdrop of $500. All you need is to trade with $100, and you get that as an additional amount for free so you can trade. There's a link at the top of the description so you can take advantage of this perk from Bybit. I also left you referral links. If you open a new Bybit account with my referral link, you can unlock up to 30,000 in rewards. If you do that, come to my Discord server and claim 70% on all the Trading Parrot subscriptions. If you already had a Bybit account, you can transfer it to my referral with the instructions I left on Discord. And I also left instructions on how to get a Palau residence card so you can trade on Bybit from anywhere in the world. If you don't have a Trading Parrot subscription, you can come to my website and check how many indicators you can access for free. Now, the picnic tier is also for free. That's going to give you a good amount of indicators. With the observer, you can do the trial and also get additional indicators. And of course, if you go for VIP, you get all the indicators together. There's over 100 Pine scripts I have developed in the past. There are many for backtesting, signals. Some of them are quite advanced and many of them are very easy to use. If you're not ready to decide, just come and join our Discord server. The link is in the description. Go straight to the forum and look at the strategies. Engage in a discussion with me, with my team, and the community of users. You can ask other users how good or bad signals have been performing and start your journey of learning how to trade with bots or manually as well. I'll see you there. Bye bye.